So let's get started. Here's what I'll start with. I grew up in a traditional Sikh family in India, incredibly traditional. We went to the temple all day Sunday. We hung out with people from our own religious community. And where the equation for my life was sort of planned out for me, right? You're going to be a good girl. And a good girl is essentially defined as someone who goes to school, wins lots of awards, studies hard, marries someone your parents pick for you. And by the way, life will be amazing. I think most of the women in this room have figured out that that's clearly not how life works. So that's what I grew up with. Picture the scene. I grew up in a flat in Mumbai, India. I'm hanging out in the hallway, listening to my parents try to negotiate a marriage proposal for me. The guy was richer than my family could possibly even imagine. It was a great business match for my dad. And he was 10 years older than me, and my 19-year-old brain told me he was spiraling himself into alcoholism as we had tea and sipped on Indian snacks. I was at a crossroads, and as you can imagine, the fact that I'm here in a pink jacket implies I made a choice, and I chose myself, right? And in many ways, thank you. And I would say in many ways, there wasn't really a choice. Within days, with $240 in my wallet, a $10,000 bank loan, not a soul in the US, I arrived on the shores of Los Angeles to start graduate school. Everything was foreign, right? Cooking, cleaning, doing laundry, making connections, getting to know the wild west of Americans. Incredible people, by the way. But I was free, right? When my family flew me first class, one last time back to Boston, because he was attending Harvard, first class to go visit him, and it was one last ditch attempt at a proposal. I knew I was at a crossroads, but again, the answer was incredibly clear. Once I said no, the funding stopped, the connection stopped, and so I bought a $69 Greyhound ticket back to Los Angeles, and as I watched America's beautiful landscape whiz past me in a blur, I think I realized life's most important lesson. You have to take care of yourself, and I have the power to create my own path. What do you do after you struggle, you survive, right? You make it. You cope, and you move on, right? We are all incredibly great at moving on. What did I do? I moved on, right? I graduated, found a job, actually found great work, incredible companies, climbed the corporate ladder. I met an amazing man from Wisconsin, so here we go, UW-Madison. Got married, had 3 amazing children, and from the outside, I would say, I had made it, and we get on autopilot, right? Life was good, I was fat and happy, and I was living on autopilot. Until Friday, January 4th, 2019, when the biggest dilemma on my to-do list that morning was picking drapes for our newly renovated home in New Jersey. I get a 2:20 a.m. call from my neighbors in India saying my mother had been whisked away to the hospital, and before I could make the 18-hour journey back to India, she had passed. 3 months later to the day, my father followed. No goodbyes, no chance for final words, right? No such thing as closure. Back home in the United States, after months of trips to India, funerals, family events, family gatherings, I, the early morning riser, the woman who had built her career on facts and data and things being black and white and being able to control my life, realized that I couldn't even wake myself out of bed. One morning, alone in my kitchen, the kids had left for school, my husband had taken them and gone off to work. I spilled my cup of coffee, and I realized that that very little spill unraveled my existence, right? I realized as I sank to the floor, tears burning my cheeks, that profound lesson, that my deepest strength emerges when I embraced the power to heal myself, right? I needed to tap into that resilience, and I needed to rise. Life continued. You get back on autopilot. Years later, I'm sitting at FIS's corporate offices at One Vanderbilt and prepping for a boardroom meeting. I had been handed a division that was underperforming, and I was there to present to the board my innovative strategies around turning this business around. As I sat outside the boardroom, I'm rehearsing and very anxiously practicing and anticipating the questions I might get asked. A good colleague and now dear friend of mine, Christina, leans over and says, "I can't wait for the pink dragon to show up." I had never heard this term before, and just as she said that, we got ushered into the boardroom. As I was in the boardroom for the next 2 hours, being thrown pellets of questions, right, from 14 incredibly talented, incredibly seasoned board members, I realized that I handle every single challenge with fierce conviction and gentle grace. And that's when I realized what Christina meant, right? I was the pink dragon, not because I breathed fire, but because I was embodying the transformation lesson that I've been learning since I was 19. Here's what I've learned about being a pink dragon, right? And I see a ton of pink dragons out there. So we are fierce and gentle. We are strong, yet vulnerable. Certain and questioning all at once. And we're okay. Being a pink dragon isn't about never feeling fear or doubt, right? We'd be dead if we didn't. It's about learning to fly with all of it. You might think that this is where the story concludes, right? It's a nice, happy ending. We put the bow, and we move on to our next event in life. However, a little over a year ago, I reached the C-suite, right? The pinnacle of my career, what I had been aspiring to attain and achieve. And many would call it making it. Instead, what I uncovered was the games still get played at the C-suite. I was working for a boss who my daughters taught me what gaslighting meant after they overheard my updates with him. And so I found myself facing a boss, right, who had mastered the art of gaslighting, planting seeds of doubt in every interaction. You overcome that. Meanwhile, children began leaving home, right? Silence, very few, for the moms in the room, it's a silence you never really get used to. Then comes my husband's cancer diagnosis. He's good. A stark reminder that life doesn't wait for you to catch your breath, right? So 3 really simple things that really helped me transform my pain into purpose. The beauty of rituals, right? Each of you needs to find a way to honor yourself, honor your story, honor your strength. For me, it could be a 3-minute pause when I wake up. It could be 5 minutes with my favorite cup of coffee, where I just acknowledge where I am, right? I acknowledge what I'm feeling, how I'm feeling, and just accept yourself with what you have, where you are, and what you know, right? Truth tellers. So these aren't the people who are going to praise you and commend you, right? These are the people who will give you the truth you need to hear. Right? They aren't cheerleaders. They are the ones who recognize your pink dragon spirit and remind you of it when you forget. For me, it was Christina sitting outside the boardroom. I've learned to cultivate these friendships, these relationships, right? Be vulnerable with them. Let them hold space for your journey. And take imperfect action, please. Stop waiting for the perfect moment, for the perfect version of yourself to show up. Start today exactly where you are, right? Write down one small thing you can do to honor your needs. Maybe it's saying no to an obligation that drains you. Or maybe it's something like this. Thank you, Christine. Something that lights you up, right? And then do it, even if your voice shakes, even if you are scared. Flying through the storms. The magic isn't in doing these things perfectly. It's in doing them consistently and with self-compassion. Because each time you choose yourself, something magical happens. Each time you acknowledge both your struggles and your strengths, you are developing your pink dragon wings. Because being a pink dragon isn't about breathing fire all the time. Sometimes it's about gentle warmth. Sometimes it's about fierce protection. But always, always, it's about being authentically, magnificently you while you fly through life's storms. Thank you.